story time about my backstabbing boyfriend. So a little background information. I was 15 and a sophomore in high school, but we are going to rewind back to 9th grade. Now, I went to a very small private school. Like, there were literally only 10 kids in my entire class. So it was slim pickings everywhere. Like, and it wasn't even just for the girls, it was for the guys too. And going to such a small school, you would think that it would be really hard to find like a best friend, which I'm not gonna lie, for most people that was the case, but for me, thankfully, I was lucky. And I met this girl who we're gonna call Jan. Now, Jan and I have been best friends since like 2nd grade, and she was literally the most amazing person I had ever met. But like I said, fast forward, we're in 9th grade, right? This is around the time when her and I are low-key boy crazy as fuck. I decided that the antler ears are more fitting for the holidays. Like, look at these. They also make me look like a f***ing clown. Anyways, like I was saying, her and I boy crazy as hell. And no offense to the guys at our school, but we would not consider dating any of y'all. You know why I feel like that is though? Because I feel like when you're around certain people for so long, like unless you're dating that person, you find them less attractive than you would have like if it was your first, second, or third time meeting, you know? Or it really could just be that these kids are ugly. But we're gonna go with the less dickhead option. Anyway, so where we lived, there was this other school that was about an hour away from us, and most of our school, the 10 kids, knew pretty much almost everybody who went to that school because our churches were connected. Trust the process with the eyebrows. I'm trying to do something that this girl said to do on TikTok, and it's either gonna go really good for me or she's gonna be blocked for trying to sabotage me. Anyway, so I was actually really good friends with some of the girls who went to this school, and before we go any further into this story time, we need to do a little I need to give a little history lesson about my family. So my parents were extremely strict and religious. We would go to church every Sunday, we would go to all the church events, and no phone until I was 15, no boyfriend until I was 16, and then there was the we need to know where you are at all times type shit. You know, my parents were extremely strict when I was growing up as well. I always remember though, it was like the littlest things that would get on my nerves. Like, I get the whole checking in, you know, so that way they can make sure that you're alive and safe, but I would literally have to check in with my parents every hour. And almost once a week, my parents were going through my phone. I mean, you know what though? I guess the whole checking in every hour thing wasn't such a bad thing because half the time I wasn't where I was supposed to be. But I'm so happy I'm not a teenager anymore. I have to sneeze. Okay, I think we're good. And for those of you who are currently going through that stage of your life, I feel your pain. Anyways, back to the story. So, you know, the one Sunday I go to church with my family per usual, and I noticed that the cousins of my cousins were also there, which was unusual, but regardless, they were there and they weren't related to me. Well, eventually I also see this boy who we're gonna call Nick, and he was around my age, and I had heard a lot about this boy from my friends, and all bad things, of course. Like, apparently he was super wild and crazy, and his reputation with girls was not good. So I felt like I already knew this kid based off of what everybody told me. But one of my friends that Sunday came to church, and she lived like an hour away from me, so I never really got to see her. So I really didn't pay attention to him. I just paid attention to my friend the whole time. Fast forward later that day, I got a text from my best friend Jan, and she's like, OMG, remember that kid Nick from church? He wants your phone number. Now this is gonna get a little bit confusing. Try to keep up, okay? Okay. So their school was about an hour away, right? None of us really hung out with each other because nobody is driving back and forth a f***ing hour to see each other. Like, it's not happening. But Jan's older sister was dating this guy named Andrew. Andrew and his family lived an hour away. So Jan and Andrew's family would hang out. Andrew had a younger brother named Trevor. Are you guys keeping up? Trevor was best friends with Nick because they both lived an hour away. So yeah, it's all connected, okay? So Trevor texted Jan saying that Nick wanted my Snapchat, but like I said before, my parents were super strict, so I did not have a Snapchat, which was low-key embarrassing, but you know, whatever. I mean, if I'm being completely honest though, it wasn't even my parents that were just strict, it was literally the whole community that I lived in. Like, for Nick to ask for my Snapchat, that was a very big deal. And like I said before, I wasn't allowed to have a phone until I was 15, so during this time in my life, I was using this app called Hangouts on my family's computer, the computer that everybody fucking used in the house. Like, I felt like a fucking pilgrim. I don't think that's a pilgrim, I think that's the Amish people. No offense to Amish people, but listen, I was not made for this shit. Do y'all who have iPhones remember whenever they did like that emergency test thing and everybody's phones went off? This probably isn't funny to the Amish people.
We cannot be laughing about this shit right now.
All the Amish people who had phones that weren't supposed to have phones, their phones went off, and a lot of them were kicked out of their communities. That is awful. Like, imagine being shunned because you have a phone. I just literally could never. Like, props to them for being able to like live in the 21st century without technology, but me personally, I probably would cry. Anyway, so you know, I told Jan to tell him I don't have a Snapchat, and this is like a really good excuse because I didn't want him to text me on anything, and I technically wasn't lying. So, you know, she tells him, hey, she doesn't have a Snapchat, and then this man literally just would not give up. He's like, okay, then what's her phone number? And then Jan goes, she doesn't have a phone either. Like, this kid probably thought, wow, she really does not fuck with me, because it is like so rare for a kid above the age of 11 to not have a freaking phone nowadays. So I thought that Trevor had given up on being the wingman for Nick, until he texts Jan again asking her what my Hangouts is. And you know, listen, I love Jan, love her so much, but then she literally gives my Hangouts to him without telling me. Okay, I mean, she did ask if she could give it to him, but I said no. And then sis started making it this whole big thing about her. I was like, no, I don't want him to have my Hangouts. And then she goes, listen, this is Trevor's best friend. We literally could be going on double dates and stuff. Besides, this will finally give Trevor and I a reason to talk to each other and something to talk about. I love that I'm her lab rat. Like, can't y'all talk about how, like, I don't know, sloths can hold their breath longer than dolphins, or how it's impossible to hum while holding your nose, or even the fact that Fruit Loops are all the same flavor. Which, yeah, if you didn't know that, that is true. Your whole childhood was a lie.
Cut the show. I'm done. Take me off. Take me off.
Anyway, so yeah, I'm pretty annoyed about this, but you know, I decided to be, you know, perfect wingman, take one for the team. Round of applause for me. Thank you, thank you. I know. I'm an amazing best friend, for real. Anyway, so like I said, she gives him my shit without telling me, and then he sends me a message and he's like, what's up, shorty?
Oh, that's good. That's real good. And honestly, I'm gonna block you.
Which I am not impressed. Not impressed at all. I was more so thinking, wow, this is just great. Another guy that puts on the I'm so cool act, when in reality, he looks like an idiot. Like, take that shit somewhere else. But you know, Jan begged me to start actually texting him and talking to him. So I did. And then after a couple weeks, Jan says, there's no need for you to keep texting him. Trevor and I are done. And ladies and gentlemen, this is where I realized that I wasn't just talking to him because she wanted me to anymore. I mean, at first, yeah, sure, I did not want anything to do with this kid. But now I actually realized that I kind of do enjoy talking to him. Our conversations were super easy, never forced, and all the rumors that I heard about him didn't seem believable at all after I actually started talking to him. He was super kind and sweet, and overall everything in general just seemed to be easy with him in a good way. Y'all, I really wish it is not the time for me to be reading these story times. You want to know why, y'all? I was supposed to be in a relationship around this time. I was supposed to be making cookies, matching PJs, watching Christmas movies, and everything, but no, never that. Like, I was literally fighting the air while I was reading this story time. All of you that are in happy, healthy relationships, I'm so happy for y'all, but I'm also bitter as That is enough about my depressing love life. So, you know, Nick and I kept texting, and eventually I find out that he likes me because Trevor told Jan, and Jan obviously told me. Now, before I found out that he liked me, in my head, him and I were always just talking as friends. Strictly friends, nothing more, nothing less. Because I didn't want to catch feelings for him, not knowing how he felt. You know, I remember when I was in high school, my ex and I, we were hooking up. He was supposed to be like a rebound from some douchebag that I was talking to. And the whole thing was, he was like, I just don't want her to catch feelings for me. And when I say hooking up, guys, I mean we would literally just make out. So it was super easy for me to be like, okay, whatever, and you know, turn my feelings off. So, you know, I shut my feelings off. I was like, okay, whatever, you know, we just make out. It is what it is. And then the one night, our one mutual friend was like begging my ex to tell him who he had a crush on. It's like hilarious. This is like such like grade school shit, but like he finally told him that he liked me and that he caught feelings for me. So then our mutual friend calls me literally 2 minutes after. He runs to the bathroom, locks himself in the bathroom, calls me. Like, that was literally one of the funniest things. He's like, I gotta go to the bathroom, and walks away, calls me immediately. And he goes and he's like, he told me he likes you. I probably sounded like the biggest on the phone because I'm like, ew, what the fuck? How is he gonna tell me that he doesn't want me to catch feelings and then he catches feelings for me and now he likes me, blah, 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 blah. It was actually hilarious. He like called me the one day and he was like, hey, just want to let you know that I'm going to this girl's house. Is this okay? And I was like, I don't give a fuck. We're not dating. Really why that relationship failed, to be honest. Like, that was probably like that one time I told him I didn't give a fuck was probably the root to all of our problems. It definitely wasn't, but you know, we can make ourselves feel better by thinking it was. Anyways, back to the fucking story. If I would stop fucking interrupting, I'm so sorry. Like, damn. So the one night him and I are talking, right? We're talking until like 3 in the morning, and this is when I started to realize, oh shit, I have feelings for him. And this was after I found out that he liked me from Jan. So fast forward, the one night him and I are talking, and that is when we had the tell me who you like and I'll tell you who I like conversation. If you've never had one of those conversations, everybody has to have one of these conversations in their life, seriously. Anyways, that's when we both admitted to liking each other, and I admitted that I liked him first. Could you guys imagine if Trevor had lied and he was like, oh, sorry, I like someone else? Like, that would have been my 13th reason, and Jan would have been the main character. Anyway, so we decided to be in this like 24-hour relationship, right? But literally less than 24 hours later, I told him I didn't want to be in a relationship anymore. Like, sure, we both liked each other, but what was the point in dating if we were never gonna see each other? So very harshly, I told him it was f***ing dumb for us to be dating. I also told him that I wasn't gonna date somebody that I had never met in person. I just feel like I came to a lot of last minute realizations, and yeah. Obviously, this didn't stop us from liking each other, and we still talked as normal. Like, it wasn't awkward or anything. But the one day I invited him to this church event, and he actually came. So finally, we met in person, and we hung out the entire time. Everything literally was just how I imagined it would be. Like, there was no awkwardness. It was quite literally perfect. Well, after that night, I texted him and I was like, okay, I'm ready to be in a relationship with you now. Obviously, him and I, we are super excited about this, but there were so many hurdles in our relationship because of the fact that my parents were so strict and we lived an hour away. We could barely see each other. And since he had like a bad reputation, we couldn't really tell anybody else about us. Like, the only people that knew were Trevor and Jan. My parents didn't know that I knew him, let alone that I was fucking dating him, because I could have kissed my life goodbye if they found out. And before I met Nick, I was like a goody two-shoes, you know? Like I said, I was very sheltered, so I didn't even know that half of the bad shit out in the world existed. For example, I thought listening to Taylor Swift was bad. Well, that was actually until Nick showed me his playlist. Like, the one day I'm like, hey, you know, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, listening to music. And I was like, oh, what songs? And he sends me a screenshot of his playlist, and I'm like, oh my god. Like, there were a ton of bad songs on there. But I listened to every single one of them because he was my boyfriend and I wanted to know what type of music he was listening to, duh. Now, before that, he would never swear or say anything even remotely bad around me, but this unlocked a whole new door in our relationship. All of a sudden, we were talking about the more intimate side of a relationship, aka intercourse and everything else surrounding that subject. So fast forward, him and I, we've been talking / dating for a couple of months now. We had even started saying we loved each other, which was a huge thing for me. There were nights where we would stay up until like 3 a.m. or sometimes we would even pull all-nighters. Well, me being young, dumb, and dramatic, once again, I decide that I'm going to break up with him. Why did I decide to break up with him? Well, I know that this sounds awful, but I really had no reason. Everything between him and I was actually quite perfect. I think in all honesty, I was kind of just getting sick of him.
Emotional, damn it!
But I also knew that he was still gonna love me after him and I broke up. So at the beginning of the summer, my family and I went on a camping trip and Jan decided to tag along. So the one night I asked if I could use her phone so that way I could break up with him, which in the future after this whole mess, he actually admitted to me that when I broke up with him, he thought about unaliving himself, which I feel really bad about still even to this day. But after him and I broke up, I didn't check my Hangouts for a while because I didn't really need to. You know, him and I were broken up. Fast forward a little bit, I checked my messages and holy shit, the amount of text messages that he sent me, it was sad. All of them were along the lines of, oh my god, I miss you so much. I know we were meant to be. I'm so sorry for what I did. Listen, I want to tell y'all something right now. Anybody, I don't care if it's girl or guy, that tells you that they are going to unalive themselves because you broke up with them, leave them. L-E-A-V-E. Leave them, okay? And if you're the person that does that, shame on you, shame on you, shame on you. I remember watching this one case and I forget exactly how it went, but this guy kept telling his girlfriend that, or this girl, that he was gonna off himself because of this, that, the next, and the one that, you know, and she kept trying to console him, and then the one day he tells her and she's like, okay, do it, go do it. And he does it. And she goes to in jail. Stay away from people like that. Tell them to go get some help. Like, the people that do that should be ashamed of themselves. That is awful to put on another person. And I don't care if y'all think that I'm an asshole for saying that, because I will say it again and again and again and again. Anyway, so half of the text messages read, oh, we were meant to be together. You're the love of my life. I cannot imagine living without you. I want to marry you. I want you to have my kids, blah, 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 this and that and the next. One even said, hey, I just want to let you know that I'm so sorry for everything that happened. I don't know what I did to cause all of this, but I just want you to know that I'll always love you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not gonna lie, my heart actually felt that one a lot. So I texted him and we started talking again. Well, actually we start dating again, but just without the label. Eventually we started to talk about him sneaking to my house so we could actually see each other and we could hopefully make out. Now I never had any faith in this actually happening, but you know what they say, never say never. And whoever they is was right, because it happened. One night I got super mad at my parents and they left to go over to one of their friend's house and I told him, hey, now's the perfect time for you to come over so we can see each other. So this kid drove a full f***ing hour to come and see me. Literally a full hour. He even stopped and got me food. Like, if that isn't love, then I don't know what is.
I tell you what, you won't like it.
Now, I couldn't just go out of the house randomly because I did have siblings. So I told them that I was just gonna go on a walk, which I'm surprised that they weren't more suspicious because it was literally pitch black outside. Anyway, so he picks me up, we hang out for a little bit, and we have our first kiss, which this literally has to be one of the biggest secrets I've ever kept in my life. Like, the only person that knows about this is Jan and obviously Nick. But other than that, nobody else knows about that night. For good reason, because my parents probably would have unalived me. Anyways, like I said, him and I, we made out, we talked for a little bit, and then he left. And when I got home that night, he had texted me and he was like, I just want to tell you that you're the love of my life. You're the only girl that I can see myself with. I don't want nobody else but you. You know, just the whole 9 yards. And this was a turning point in our relationship because this was when we knew that we were actually in love with each other. Anyway, so after this, he started to come and see me more often. Well, at least any time that my parents weren't home, I would tell him, hey, come over. And like I said, he would drive an hour. Like, this kid and I were in love, y'all. Like, for real.
Ciao. Anyway, so.
Well, eventually my dad starts to get suspicious, and what does he do? He changes all the f***ing passwords on all the computers. So now I'm f***ing pissed because how am I supposed to talk to the boyfriend that I'm not supposed to have? Like, dads can be such a pain in the f***ing ass. So obviously Nick and I are super upset because we can't talk to each other, but then guess what this kid does? He buys me a phone. Literally buys me a fucking phone. Now, obviously, no one in my house knew about this freaking phone, right? Like, nobody. But you know, I ended up getting Snapchat and we would usually just text on there all the time. Well, as a thank you for him getting me this phone and just being the best boyfriend in the world, I would send him bra pictures. Super scandalous. Well, the phone was nice while it lasted because the one day I had to go to the bathroom, so I hid my phone in my sock drawer and then I go to the bathroom, right? Well, it just so happens around the same time my sister was looking for her ski socks and she comes into my room, finds the phone, and gives it to my f***ing mama. Like, what a little rat. Y'all, thank God that I got out of my parents' house before my younger sister could talk. I have a younger sister who's like 8 years old, right? She be telling on everybody. Like, nobody in that f***ing house is safe. Seriously. Like, for example, she'll be sitting outside my sister's doors listening to their conversations with their friends and stuff like that. And then she'll go and she'll run back and tell my parents about it. She'll be like, oh, dad, she was talking about this. Like, I wouldn't be here today, let alone even alive, if she could talk when I was in that house, because the amount of shit that I would have got in trouble for, whew. Done. R.I.P. But no, it's actually funny. Whenever my sisters first told me about this, I just thought that they were being extra as like, she doesn't really do all that, until I experienced it firsthand. So in July, I went up to visit my family, and you know, I'm in my sister's rooms, and we're having like a private conversation, and you know, my little sister's in the room as well. And one of my sisters was like, hey, like, can you leave the room? Kay and I need to talk. And she's like, no, I'll just put my headphones on. I won't even hear you guys. And she's an iPad kid, so I'm thinking, okay, she's gonna pop her headphones on and she's not gonna listen to us. So you know, she has her headphones on, she's sitting in the corner, and then my sister goes, hold on a minute. And I'm like, she's not listening, she has her headphones on. She's like, no, hold on. She grabs her headphones, they're not even plugged in, and the iPad is off. I literally am sitting there staring at her like, and mom, if you're watching this, I love you, but you are sneaky as fuck. But yeah, you know what she's gonna be? She's gonna grow up to be that detective friend, okay? The one that finds out that your man cheated on you before you even had suspicions. Anyways, so like I said, apparently my sister was looking for her ski socks, and then she just goes in the door and happens to find my phone for the 2 minutes that I was gone, and then all of a sudden my mom has it. When I went into that room, y'all, I'm telling you, I'm tearing that shit the fuck up. I'm like, how can I misplace something? Like, I literally started to think that I had dementia. I can't remember if dementia is the one where you forget shit. Hey Siri, define dementia.
To do that, you'll need to turn off airplane mode.
Shut the fuck up, Siri.
Okay.
Define dementia.
Dementia means a chronic or persistent disorder of the mental processes, memory disorders.
Okay, so I was right.
This is how I imagine y'all feel when I keep interrupting the story.
Stop interrupting me. This again, I got interrupted.
Yeah. Anyways.
I started to think that I had fucking dementia, until I came to the sad reality that I did not have dementia and that my mother actually had the fucking phone. So you know, after I find out that my mom has the phone, I am fucking terrified, because there were really bad things on there. So you know, at this point, I'm thinking about how I'm going to make my escape out of the country. Like, I kind of knew that my life was done. No, but seriously, they wanted the password. I wouldn't give it to them. I refused until I gave in, because they told me that I wasn't gonna get the phone back until I told them the password. So you know, of course, they go through my phone, and now do not get me wrong, they found a fuck ton of shit, but thankfully a lot of the other shit was on Snapchat, so you know, it disappeared or whatever, and they couldn't see any of that. Let's just say that that part of my life was rough, to say the least. Which meant that I couldn't talk to my boyfriend because I was grounded for what seemed like forever. But you know what? We thugged it out together, and we stayed loyal, stood by each other, metaphorically, of course. And yeah, you know, like, we really made it out of the trenches, y'all. Anyway, so eventually I found a way to get it into the computer again, and him and I start talking. Now listen, my man was not ugly.
Oh my God, you ugly as fuck!
He wasn't, but he also knew that he wasn't the best looking in the bunch. We love a self-aware king per. I'm just kidding, that's f***ed up. But yeah, no, he knew that he like was low-key ugly, so this was good. Because listen, I loved my boyfriend for his personality, right? And I love the fact that he was a total simp for me. He would literally do anything and everything for me to make sure that I'm happy, safe, etc. But you know, me being a normal human being, when a more attractive guy comes along and asks for my Snapchat, of course I'm gonna give it to him. And I'm not gonna say no.
And I would do it again.
Okay, okay. But one night, one of my friends and I were having a sleepover, and she was on FaceTime with her one friend who was super fucked up, and we're gonna call this friend Jay. Anyway, so yeah, you know, they're on the phone, and then she turns the camera towards me, and he's like, whoa, who's that? She's hot as f***. Like I said, he was super drunk, he had no filter, so he starts talking about how he would like to see me naked, and how he rated me at 9 out of 10, and I thought that it was funny, so I was laughing. He was super hot, but I had a boyfriend, so obviously I didn't give this man a second thought. Like, after he got off the phone, I thought that that was the end of that. Until the next day, he asked my friend for my Snapchat, and my phone number, and all that good shit, and since I was at a point in my life where I finally had a phone, I told her to give it to him. Like, I'm not gonna deprive this man of the best human being on earth, aka myself. Like, what kind of person would I be? Anyway, so after this, him and I start talking, but obviously I'm still super in love with my boyfriend. Nothing about that has changed, but he also had no idea I was talking to this kid. Well, pretty much until I found out that this kid was his work friend. Like, everyone knows everyone. It is ridiculous. And when I say work friend, I mean they work together every single day mowing lawns together. Every day. So after I found this out, I immediately texted my boyfriend. I was like, hey, I just want to let you know, I met one of your friends and he asked me for my phone number. We've been talking, but only as friends. And my boyfriend, who's an absolute saint, of course he's a little bit pissed off, but he knows that he couldn't find anybody better than me, so he got over it. But I'm not gonna lie, Jay and I actually really hit it off. We started talking more and more, and the one night he even told me that he loved me. That's when I knew I low-key f***ed up. And trust me, I did say to myself, this is bad, we can't keep doing this. But then, you know, we got the angel on this shoulder, devil on this shoulder. The devil was more convincing. I like the attention and validation that I was getting from this man. So yeah, sis didn't win today. To be honest, I don't think she would have won even if she had a better argument. I like the attention and validation too much. Well, you know, I keep texting him, and then all of a sudden, he starts catching even more feelings for me. And then he starts sending me super steamy messages, telling me what he wants to do to me and what he wants me to do to him. And I would politely turn him down every time. And before y'all start, I do not call this cheating, okay? Because yes, he would send me bad stuff, but I wouldn't send it back. For example, the one time we were talking about soccer, he was like, oh, are you a good soccer player? And I was like, yeah, I have super strong legs. And he's like, oh, can I see? And I'm like, sorry, I don't send leg pictures. And he's like, oh, can I have a full body pic then? And I didn't see a problem with that, so I sent him a full body picture. What? But then, you know, he couldn't control himself, and he's like, oh my God, you're so hot. Like, he just sent me a ton of messages along the lines of that. Anyways, I had only ever talked to him over FaceTime. Like, there was one time where we met in person. He told me that he was close to my house, and I was like, oh, okay. And then he biked 11 miles to come and see me. And the first thing he said whenever he saw me, he was like, you don't look like Nick's type, aka my boyfriend. And I'm like, what do you mean? And I think that he just kept saying things to try and make me break up with my boyfriend, because he was like, oh, well, Nick's always saying that he wants, like, you know, a BBL girl, aka a girl who has fat ass and, you know, everything else. Well, yeah, anyways, after meeting him, I was like, ooh, he's low-key ugly as fuck. So I friend-zoned him. And I did feel bad a little bit because he texted my best friend saying that he really liked me. But after this, I decided the right thing to do would be to tell my boyfriend. And Nick was super happy that I cut him off, but also pissed off that I had been talking to somebody else. But eventually he got over it because, like I said before, he couldn't find anybody better than me. Anyway, so fast forward, one of Nick's friends are getting married and he invites me to the wedding, but sadly, my parents hated Nick and I knew they would never let me go even if I asked, so I politely declined. And, you know, fast forward to the next day, him and I are talking about how the wedding went, and he's telling me that there was this girl grinding all up on him and, like, trying to, you know, flirt with him and steal his glasses and stuff. I didn't really give a fuck because I knew that he was just trying to make me jealous, and I knew that he would never leave me. Not only did I know this just because, but he would literally tell me 24/7 he would never leave me. And I always knew that I had the upper hand in the relationship because of this, and because I was more attractive than him. Anyways, fast forward a few weeks go by, and my family and I were about to go on a week-long vacation, and I'm not gonna have my phone the whole time because my parents would go through my phone. It was just a whole big thing. Obviously, he's super upset the night before I leave, and he sends me this whole paragraph about how I'm the girl that he can see himself marrying and how he wants to spend the rest of his life with me. Listen to me right now, y'all. I'm gonna tell y'all something, okay, if you don't already know. Every single time after a man confesses his feelings to you, I'm not even gonna lie, maybe I'm putting my problems onto y'all right now, but you need to hear it, mainly because I need to just get it off my chest because it hurts. Every time after a man confesses his feelings to you, 99.9% of the time, like I'm telling you, they'll tell you some shit like I'm ready to marry you, like I want you to be my wife, I want you to have my babies, like everything. The next day, or literally within an hour, all of a sudden they've had this realization that they're not ready and they're like, listen, I'm just not ready. I just think things are moving too fast. Trust me, I have been there. It sucks. Pretty sure a lot of us have been there. I think at this point the men should just start paying for our therapy because at this point, ciao. Anyway, so I'm like, holy shit, I knew we were in love, but this is a little bit too far. But overall, I thought that it was super sweet. Fast forward, I get home for vacation because I know this man blew up my phone while I was gone, as he should. So, you know, I log onto the computer real quick, you know, go to check my clingy boyfriend's messages. There's nothing there. I'm sorry. There is nothing there. Not one thing. Like, we're talking about a kid that if I went a night without texting him, he would blow up my phone. He sent me 59 text messages the one night whenever I went to sleep, saying that he loved me and he wanted me to come back on the phone to text him because he missed me so much. So this was so unusual. Anyway, so I text him and I'm like, hey, you know, like, how are you? And he's like, doesn't respond until the next day. First of all, he doesn't respond until the next day. And then he starts the awkward small talk where it's like, hey, hi, what are you doing? Oh, nothing. What are you doing? Oh, nothing. The energy was not there. The texts were dry as f. So this is when I knew something was up. I text him and I'm like, yo, what is going on? Like, what? Am I missing something? Am I missing something? And do y'all want to know what this man says? He goes, I'm sorry, I just lost feelings for you. So I'm over here panicking, feeling like I'm about to have a damn heart attack because for a year and a half, you have been feeding me straight shit. Literal shit. Like he's saying, oh, I want to marry you. You're the only girl I want to be with. I can never see myself being with anybody else. Everybody else is ugly to me now that I've met you. Like, I want you to be the mother of my kids. I can't wait till we can marry each other. Blah, 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 everything under the sun. And then all of a sudden I leave for a week and poof, magically. It's like that whole year and a half gone. Done. Like, that shit never existed. So eventually he starts ignoring my text messages and everything. Obviously I'm heartbroken at first because, like, I really thought this was gonna be the man that I was gonna marry. But then my sadness turned into anger because how are you gonna tell me that you want to marry me and then break up with me a week later? So after that, I broke. I was at the lowest of the low. I'm telling you, crying myself to sleep every night for the next few weeks. Barely eating. I lost 10 pounds unintentionally because I could literally only force myself to eat enough to survive. Eventually, I find out from some mutual friends that he has been dating another girl for the past 2 months. Which means they first started dating while he was in a relationship with me. He had been dating her for a full month before he broke up with me. And guess what else I found out? It was the girl from the wedding. And apparently he didn't tell me about her earlier because he wasn't sure if it was gonna work out with her. Like, that is not how it works. It's not. It's really not. So weeks after me leaving him messages on messages on messages on messages, he finally responds. Now the reason why I had been sending him all those messages was because 1, I was hurt, and 2, I felt like I didn't get the proper closure. Like, I just didn't get closure at all. But yeah, then he texts me and he's pretty much just saying, oh, like, my new girlfriend is everything to me. She's all that I've ever wanted. You need to move on with your life. So right now I am in the process of getting over him one day at a time, and sadly, I realized everything makes me miss him. Songs, places, everything. And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of just wanted to get this story out there as revenge, I guess. Okay, everybody, that is the end of today's story time.